welcome back, knitters. This is Janet from Purl Together. Today I want to talk about what you do with all your partial skeins of yarn. So I have another video about what to do with your scraps. These are like, 5 grams or less, little teeny bits and bobbles. But if you have a bigger, like partial skein, like a half a skein, or something a little bigger like this, where you've used a good bit of it, but it's not quite a little tiny scrap yet. So today I want to talk about how you can determine how much you have left, so that if you wanted to pair things together for a project, you would know exactly how much yardage you have in order to plan that next project. Okay, before we dive right in, I'd like to give a public shout out and a heartfelt thank you to some of my brand new patrons this month. Big thanks to Jane Bartik, Megan Croft, Darlene Boone, and Carol Richardson. Thanks so much for supporting Purl Together. Couldn't do it without you. If you're interested in becoming a patron, you pledge a small amount each month in trade for perks I'm offering, like a private Facebook group, knit night with me in a virtual knit night environment, and some other stuff. You can check that out at patreon.com/Purl Together. All right, let's get to it. All right, so I've got this partial skein that I don't really know how much there is. And I know that on my Swift particularly, if I have these pegs on the outside hole slots or holes, then I know that one time around, I've measured that before, it's 60 inches, the circumference of one wraparound, if the pegs are all on the outside slots. So if you need to measure yours, you can just do that with, wrap this around one time and then get a yardstick or a tape measure and then do that. You can also just make a loop like this and put that over the top so it binds on itself. And then all I'm going to do here, since this is the kind of ball that comes off, I don't have to wind my ball winder first, and then I'm just simply going to start turning this and making sure I'm not stretching anything and keeping it straight, and winding this on my Swift, my tabletop Swift. Or if you have an umbrella Swift, it would be the same way. So this would also work, obviously, if you have, I've got a little tangle here, if you have a skein of yarn or a ball that has been wound before on your ball winder into a cake, but you don't have the label anymore, or you've lost the information, this is going to be a quick and easy way to determine how much yarn you actually have. And the reason I'm doing it this way is because I don't have a working digital scale at the moment. I do have an old school gram scale that has the counterbalances and the weights and all that. So I'm just going to use the distance method here. Alright, so now, as you may have guessed, since I know that this is 60 inches around one time on my Swift, all I need to do now is count the strands and do the math. 8, 10, okay, so after we put it all on the Swift, we ended up with 111 strands. If we do a little bit of simple math and we take 111 times 60 inches, 6,660 inches, and then divide that by 36, and we end up with 185 yards. So we did that, you have to divide it by the inches to get like terms together and end up with the right number of yards. So coincidentally enough, it came out evenly. And yes, how many of us can still do long division? So I do that on purpose. Yes, I have a calculator on my phone, but it keeps you sharp if you remember how to do basic math. Okay, so I know that I have 185 yards here. Not enough for a pair of socks, but definitely enough for contrasting heels and toes, probably enough for baby socks. That's always fun. Baby socks are fun. So what I'm going to do is take this, I have this old string tag that was on a different something, but I like string tags because you can secure them. So I'm going to write on here that I have 185 yards. And then, rather than just having a little scrap of paper folded and stuck down in the middle of the mini cake I have there, I tend to, I don't know, they fall out. I tend to lose them. I prefer the string tags so that I can at least take this through a few strands on the cake and then loop it back through itself, so I know that it's pretty likely to stay on there. All right, so that's how I do mine, and then I'll stick this down inside here, and I know I won't lose it. Okay, another method you could use if you don't own a Swift, but you do have a scale, you could use a balanced scale like this, or you could use a digital scale in grams or ounces. Now this will work, this method will work if you still have the ball band, because you can start out knowing originally how many yards you had. So this said it was originally 420 meters or approximately 460 yards or 100 grams. Okay, so now we know what it was originally. We can make sure this is balanced out and put our yarn ball on here. Now the reason mine is not zeroed out is because we had this old ice cream bucket on there. This is the scale my husband uses in his pottery studio, and he uses it for measuring out elements to make glaze components with. So I've got this bucket, and that's zeroed out in theory to the bucket. So hopefully that's pretty close. The table's a little weird sometimes, but it's going to be close enough for my purposes. So if you have a digital scale, you can simply weigh how many grams or ounces you have and then do the proportionate math. So I'm going to put my little yarn cake in there, and then I'm going to move my weights and see how many grams I have. Okay, so it's going to be about 30-something grams, I think. Almost 40, but not quite. Or maybe it is. This is going to show me that I have approximately 41.5 grams. So I've got that weight on 40 and the front on 1.5, not quite 2. So 41.5 grams. Let's go do the math and see if that matches up to our 185 yards that we got before. Okay, since we had the yarn label from before, we know what the ball band was. We know what the skein was originally. It was 100 grams, and it says approximately 460 yards. So with doing some ratios, we can tell that we had 100 grams before over 460 yards is going to be the same as our 41 grams, and then X is the number of yards. So I'm not going to lie, I had to have my high schooler help me with this, because I kind of remembered how to do it, and I kind of didn't. Anyway, then you cross multiply, so you have 100x times 460, or sorry, 100x equals 460 times 41, and then I did that over here longhand, and I ended up getting 18,860 yards, so 100x equals that. Now we just have to solve for x, so we're going to divide 100 by that, and we get 188 yards, 0.6. So we got 185 with the distance method. So I'm going to say that 3.5 yards accounts for a couple of things. One, I chose to round down to be conservative. We really had 41.5 or 41.6 grams. And number two, on the ball band, it did say approximately 460 yards total. So that could account for the difference there. If you went by the distance method and you calculated 185 yards for your project, that's what you do to be safe. Anyway, so now you know how much you have, you can plan your projects. All right, if you've enjoyed these videos, give me a thumbs up, like, and subscribe. Check us out on patreon.com, and I'll see you next time. Thanks for watching.